Alright, so this will be the last lesson from chapter 1. And so we're inequalities. So it's pretty basic and stuff that you've been doing since, a lot of it since middle school. So we'll go through it kind of quick, and I'm going to skip some of the stuff because it's a little much to write down. So remember that when you solve an inequality, you're finding the solution set. It's not a single number. We have interval notation, which is parentheses and brackets, which y'all have seen before. For an open interval, you're going to use parentheses. So like if I want to say that x is between numbers a and b, then I can write it like this. I could write set notation. We're going to stick with interval notation. And so I'm just saying that I want numbers from here to here. That's all that it's saying. So parentheses are like an open circle. If we have brackets, that's like closed circles. And that's considered a closed interval. An infinite interval is when it goes to infinity in one direction or the other. These are not things that you really need to memorize. You just need to understand that brackets go with closed circles, parentheses go with open circles. So this is the other direction for infinite interval. Alright, so this is what's important. Parentheses indicate endpoints that are not included, so open circles. Brackets are endpoints that are included, so closed circles. So this kind of sums it all up, and it's like all of the options, and they use bracket and parentheses. We tend to do circles, open and closed circles. Alright, so something you might actually be asked to do. If I want you to take this and graph it and write it in set builder notation. Alright, so we have a closed circle because there's a bracket. We have an open circle because there's a parenthesis, and it's everything in between. Set builder notation is not anything too crazy. I'm saying that I want values that are between 5 and -2, and I can do -2. And to make it set builder, I just put fancy stuff around it. I'm not going to ask for set builder on your test, but it's good that you have seen it before in your life. Alright, so for this next one, we're going to have a closed circle at 1, a closed circle at 3.5. We want all of the numbers in between. So we would say that we want values from 1 to 3.5. And we're just going to say x is such that x is in that interval, is what set builder notation would look like. Alright, so for C, negative infinity is this direction. So we want to start forever to the left and go to -1, and it's an open circle because it's a parenthesis. So if you wrote this in set builder, you would say I want x to be less than -1, no equal to because that's not closed, that's a parenthesis, and then put the fancy to make it look like set builder. Alright, well, that's all. Alright, so union and intersection, we've talked about those before. You're going to use the union symbol when you are doing interval notation for compound inequality. What you need to recognize them for is, we're not going to worry about this, is if I give you something like this. So, we're going to do them in 2 different colors. So for this one, I was supposed to turn that to red. I'm struggling hard with the red block. Okay, so we want 1 and 3 to both have a closed circle, and we want the shade in between. Alright, then the other one says to go from 2 to 6, but with open circles. Alright, so this means the intersection, where they are overlapping, where both of them occur at the same time. So that's just this little chunk right here. So it would be open circle, closed circle. So the answer would be from 2 to 3. Alright, if we have the exact same graph, so real fast, let me graph it again. That's a 2. Alright, so with the union, we want to unite them, so everything from everybody. So that would take us from here all the way to here. So we would go from 1 to 6. Alright, so what we're really wanting to do is we're wanting to be able to solve. I thought there was something else on this, there's not. All I need you to make sure you know is remember that we flip the inequality symbol when we multiply or divide by a negative. Alright, so we're going to solve this just like it was an equation. So subtract 2, divide by negative 3. You divide it by a negative, so flip this over. Come over here, this is all I need from you. Put -1 with a closed circle. Shade towards bigger numbers. And then if we want interval notation, which will be asked of you on your test, it's going to look like that. Alright, so next problem. You have x's on both sides. We want x's on one side. So I'm going to subtract 3x. You could have subtracted 7x. Add 15. Divide by 4. And I get that x is less than, because if you read it backwards, x is less than 4. So we're going to put a 4, have an open circle, and shade towards less than. And we'll say negative infinity up to 4 as our interval notation. Alright, if there is no solution, we'll just write this. If it's an inequality that's true for all, we'll write this. Okay, that's rare that it happens, but when no solution happens, it's if your variables disappear and you get a true statement. So something like 2 is less than 6. I literally just said the wrong thing. When you get a false statement, like 2 is greater than 6, is what I meant to say. An inequality that's true for all real numbers is going to be when you get something that's a true statement. If your variables disappear and you are left with a true statement, it's all real numbers. If you're left with a false statement, it's no solution, just like with equations. Alright, so take a second and solve these. So if we subtract 3x on both sides, we get 3 is greater than 2. That's true, so we're going to say all real numbers is the answer. And what that would look like on the number line is you would put arrows on both ends and shade the whole thing. Alright, for this one, if you tried to move your x's, you would get 1 is less than -1. That is a false statement, so that would be no solution. And on a number line, you would just not shade anything. Alright, compound inequality is when I have two inequalities together. There's really no reason to write all of this except to understand that I can put an and inequality together as one big statement. So that's what this guy's looking like. If they're together as one big statement, which the ands usually will be, this has 3 sides to it. So I'm going to subtract 3 in the middle so I can get x by itself, which means I've got to subtract 3 on both ends. Alright, the next step is I need to divide by 2 so that I just get an x. Well, that means that I have to divide by 2 on both ends. And these are not bad because you end up with, I need to start at -1, go to 4, open circle, close circle, and I want everything in between. And interval notation lends itself pretty easy. If it's in 4, then it's literally going to be this thing or this thing, and you'll just work both of them, graph both of them, and go from there. Which we will do when we handle these absolute value ones. Okay, so I need you to understand this, for example. If I want absolute value to be greater than 2, that means that I could be anything bigger than 2 or anything smaller than -2. And I would be more than 2 units away from 0. So with absolute value, you have to create 2 problems, just like with the equations. What we have to understand is that if it is a greater than in the first place, they're going to run away from each other, like this, like these go out, so it makes it an or. If it starts out a less than, then I'm going to be trapped, so it's an and. All right. Okay, so here we have a less than, so we're going to do x minus 2 is less than 5, and x minus 2 is greater than -5. When I change the sign, I have to flip that symbol. So here we have x is less than 7, here we have x is greater than -3. So here's -3, here's 7. I want to be more than this and less than this. So I said and. I need to be both things. So the solution is where they overlap. So I would say go from -3 to 7. I keep sliding off of the bar and it makes a big difference. Okay. So for this one, first of all, you have to have absolute value of itself. So we're going to subtract the 20. Divide by the -3. I want this to be a greater than, so I'm going to make it a less than in the first place, because when I divide by the negative, it's going to flip, and I want you to see one of those. Alright, so now, since it's a greater than, at the moment that I split it, I'm going to keep this one, and then it'll be or, and then I'll do this is less than or equal to -13. Alright, so I'll have 5x is greater than 15. So x is greater than or equal to, sorry, I didn't say that, to 30. Here I have 5x is less than or equal to -11. So x is less than or equal to -2.5. 11 divided by 5 is 2.5. So, -2, let me move that over. I have my head in the way and I can't really see what I'm doing. So we have a +3, -2 is here, -3 is here. So -2.5 and smaller is what this guy says. This one says to be 3 and bigger. Alright, but since we split at a greater than, this is an or. So I want to do this or this, which means I get to keep both of them. They don't have to overlap for an or. And then my interval notation is -infinity up to -2.5 with the bracket, because it's a closed circle, where is an equal to. Unite that with 3 to infinity. Alright, so that's all of that. Oh wait, there is another one. I didn't realize there was another one. Alright, try this one. I'm going to rewrite it like this, because I like some of the variables to be in the front. Alright, so then we can make it an or. So I didn't have to change that last one. It'll be okay. And so we'll have subtract 6, that's 12, divide by negative, so that flips and it's -4. Subtract 6, and that's -22. Divide by -3, this flips, and we get 7 and a third. Alright, so -4 and smaller, 7 and bigger. And then again, your interval notation, negative infinity up to -4, but with a parenthesis this time. Jump over, pick up at 7 1/3, and go to positive infinity. So if it's an or, you have a big gap in the middle, that's fine. When you write interval notation, you just put the big union symbol. Alright. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yes. Alright, so this is your assignment. If you have questions, please let me know. I know that went kind of quickly, so I know you're probably going to have some questions. That's fine. Just email them to me.